Welcome to our presentation, Understanding an Apartment Lease, brought to you by TLT, Tomorrow's Leaders Today. In this presentation, we will take a section-by-section look at an apartment lease and give you the knowledge to be confident you understand what you are agreeing to when you sign on the resident line. There are many formats for a lease, but for our purposes, we'll use the official lease from the Texas Apartment Association. This lease is available at TAA.org, along with a vast amount of helpful information about renting in Texas. I encourage you to visit, bookmark, and use this valuable resource. You can find a direct link to this lease in the course details document below this video. We'll begin with the first page of the lease contract. This page will contain the basic information and details of the lease. Under the Parties heading, all parties to the contract will be identified. The parties to the contract are the residents, owner, and occupants. If we look on page 2 of the lease, we can see some definitions are provided. So we can see that residents are those who will be signing the lease and living in the apartment. The owner of the property will be identified by name or an assumed name, and the occupants are people authorized to live in the apartment but do not sign the lease. Occupants are most commonly dependents, such as children. We'll next look at the lease details portion. Under Section A, you will find the address of the apartment. Next to the apartment title, you will notice text inside parentheses. This indicates that more information about this section is available in the subsequent pages of the lease. In this case, it directs us to paragraph 2, where it states that the apartment is to be used as a private residence only. Access information will inform you what devices or keys you will receive to access the apartment, mailbox, and any other areas you are entitled to access. The measurements and representations portion inform you that some details about the apartment or property are subject to change. Section B contains the initial lease term. This specifies the date your lease begins and the date it ends. Section C contains the monthly base rent you will pay. Again, there's more information to be had. Here you will find information on when rent is due, what forms of payment are accepted, and how the payments are applied. It also states the policy for late fees and return payment fees. Under Utilities and Services, you will find information about how utilities and services are handled, and your responsibilities in regard to utility and services use and fees. We will cover lease changes later. In Section D, you will find information about prorated rent. Rent is prorated when you move in or out at a time other than the first of the month. For example, if you move in on the 15th of a 30-day month, then your rent will be prorated to half a month's rent. Section E designates the amount due for your security deposit. A security deposit is money the owner will hold until you vacate the property. In paragraph 5 of the lease, you will find more information about the security deposit, including when it is due, how it can or cannot be applied, the refund policy, and what can be deducted from your security deposit. I want to draw your attention to the passage that states, "You must give us your advance notice of move-out as provided by paragraph 25 and forwarding address to receive a written description and itemized list of charges or refund." If the owner deducts money from your security deposit to cover damages to the property, you will want to request a description and itemized list of charges. This does not always happen automatically, but it is important to have so that you can review the document and contest any erroneous charges. Section F tells you how many days notice you need to give when you decide to move out, and in what form it needs to be stated. In this case, they require written notice. In the referenced paragraph 4, we can see that the lease will renew month to month after the end of lease date unless you give written notice that you intend to move or the owner gives you written notice to vacate. Section G will contain information regarding late fees. There are initial late fees as well as daily late fees. They can be a percentage of your monthly base rent or a flat fee. Here you will also find the time and day of the month that will activate the late fees if rent has not been paid. In Section H, you will find the fee for a return check or rejected payment. In paragraph 3.4, you're given further information about the return payment fee and what additional fees may be applied if warranted. Section I contains the reletting charge. Let's go to paragraph 7.1 to get some more information. This states that the reletting charge will apply if you fail to move in or move out without giving written notice, if you move out without paying rent in full for the entire lease term or renewal period, if you are instructed to move out because you defaulted on the lease, or if you are judicially evicted. It is important to note that the reletting fee is an extra fee on top of your lease obligations, not in lieu of. Section J contains the early termination fee, when notice is required, and when the fee is due. This is a fee that you can pay to terminate your lease before the agreed end date. Not all owners offer this option. In paragraph 7.2, we can find the procedures and requirements to terminate the lease early. Paragraph 7.3 is very important, as it gives you some scenarios in which you may have the right to terminate a lease early under Texas law. You can find more information about your rights to early termination in the link in the course materials document below this video. Section K gives us the animal violation charges. In paragraph 12, you'll find the animal policy, animal removal policy, and descriptions of when the animal violation charge will be triggered, and the other penalties that exist for having an unauthorized animal. Section L will detail additional recurring monthly charges. You will pay these in addition to your base rent, and unless otherwise specified, at the same time as your base rent. Section M lets you know that any separate utility bills you are responsible for will be outlined in an addenda, amendment, or in the special provisions section in the lease. If you have to pay to have utilities connected or transferred into your name, that charge will be listed here. In paragraph 3.5, you'll find guidelines and rules to follow regarding utilities, along with potential additional fees. The last section of the lease details tells us where to find the special provisions. On the last page of the lease, you will find the special provisions section, or there will be an additional page attached to the lease. Now we will look at the sections on pages 2 through 6 that we haven't previously looked at. The first is paragraph 3.6, which contains information about when lease changes are allowed and how. Important to note here is that any lease changes have to be signed by the owner and you. If you don't agree, you do not have to sign. Paragraph 6 discusses insurance. This lease requires insurance by default, but many do not. Even if a lease does not require it, it is very important that you obtain renter's insurance. It's usually very inexpensive and is a lifesaver if anything happens. If a pipe bursts and destroys your belongings, you'll have no recourse through the owner, even if they have their own insurance. I'll reiterate, it is very important that you obtain renter's insurance. In the course notes document, there are links provided to give you a starting point to find renter's insurance that fits your needs, as well as links that will explain insurance, coverage, and give some pro tips. Section 8 discusses the delay of occupancy and termination policies. Read carefully, since it gives you options for when there is a delay of occupancy not caused by you. Paragraph 9 addresses care of the unit and what happens if there are damages to the property while you occupy it. Very important to know, and a good idea to check with your renter's insurance provider to verify coverage in the cases mentioned. The resident life part of the lease will cover various aspects of living in the community. Paragraph 10 has a photo-video release disclaimer and the disclosure of information policy. It outlines the guest policy, when you need to notify the apartment in the event of a criminal conviction or registration, and the odors and noise policy. Paragraph 11 continues addressing resident life with the conduct policy and makes clear what conduct in the community is prohibited. This information is important so you know what is expected of you and your roommates, but also can be used in the event you have an issue with another resident. Everyone in the community agrees to the same code of conduct, so know it. Paragraph 13 states the parking policy and the towing policy as well. There may also be some parking information in the special provisions section or an addendum, particularly if your complex requires resident stickers, tags, visitor tags, or has assigned parking. Paragraph 14 covers when the owners or their agents are allowed to enter the unit. It contains who can enter, when, how, if you need to be present or not, and what notice they are required to give you. While this lease is compliant with Texas rental laws, not all leases are. If you have questions about whether a portion of the lease is legal or not, there are resources available to answer those. Most schools have legal aid that is free and adept at dealing with landlords and leases. If that is not available, there are links in the course details document full of useful information. Paragraph 15 gives you information about requests, repairs, and malfunctions. This will tell you when to notify someone of an issue and how. In this case, a written request delivered to the designated representative is required. There are utility work policies along with responsibilities if utilities malfunction or are damaged. In 15.4, you can see how the owner will remedy the situation should it occur. There's also information about various remedies you can exercise under the Texas Property Code. For more information about this, check out the Renters' Rights links in the course details document. Paragraph 16 discusses what happens in the case that the apartment is damaged and becomes uninhabitable, as well as if the apartments are closing or being demolished. Paragraph 16 goes over subletting. Subletting is when you rent your apartment to another person. This often happens in college towns when someone needs to leave early for some reason. In this case, it is not allowed unless agreed to in advance by the owner. It also states you are not allowed to list your apartment on Airbnb or its equivalent. Paragraph 18 covers security and safety devices. It includes in what circumstances you will be responsible for rekeying costs, and what will be provided per Texas Property Code requirements. 18.1 has information about smoke alarms and detection devices. Here's a pro tip. If a carbon monoxide detector is not already installed in the apartment, get one. They're less than $20 at a hardware store and can save your life. Then you can take it with you when you move on. For more information about carbon monoxide and why it is important to have a detector, see the course details document. Finally, in 18.2, you'll find that you are required to report if any security, safety, or detection devices are missing or malfunctioning. "19 goes over the resident safety and loss policy. In this case, they do not guarantee security and are not liable unless the situation was caused by their negligence. Renter's insurance will have your back though, so don't skip it. Paragraph 20 is all about the condition of the premises and alterations. This will go over what you can do to the apartment and what the owner is required to do to the apartment. Lots of info here, but know that it is very important that you thoroughly document every defect of the apartment when you move in. You'll do this on the inventory and condition form you are given at the beginning of your lease. It is also advised to do a walkthrough video and store it safely in case you run into any problems upon move out. Paragraph 21 informs you of how you will receive notifications from the owner. 21.1 goes over the electronic notice policy. The next 3 paragraphs discuss eviction policies and remedies. In paragraph 22, it starts by informing you that you and your roommates are all liable for lease obligations, and if any of you or a guest violates the lease, all of you are considered to have violated the lease. So be careful who you decide to room with, and know the lease and community policies well. Paragraph 23 goes over situations that would be considered defaulting. Next are eviction policies and situations, acceleration definition and remedies, holdover definition and remedies. This section includes all the different charges that stack on each other in these situations, so read them, understand them, and avoid them at all costs. Paragraph 24 discusses the authority representatives have and what does and does not constitute a waiver. It also reiterates that all remedies are cumulative. In the end of the lease term section, you'll find all the info on what happens when you move out. It outlines exactly how and when to notify them of your intentions to move out. In paragraph 26, you'll find instructions for cleaning and the move-out inspection course of action. This is a good time to take another walkthrough video in case you run into any issues, especially if they do not provide a joint move-out inspection, which is one where the owner and you are present. Paragraph 27 defines surrender and abandonment and describes what will happen in those events, including what will happen to any remaining personal property. Under General Provisions and Signatures, there is information regarding the Texas Apartment Association, a section regarding severability and survivability, a class action waiver statement, and a force majeure clause. And finally, This is where you and any roommates will sign the lease, along with the owner. Important to note is, this lease is the entire agreement between you and the owner. You are not relying on any oral representations. So if you were told something by a leasing agent that is not specifically stated in this lease, have them add it to the lease before you sign it. Thank you for watching this presentation. We hope that after watching this, you can confidently navigate your apartment lease. I would encourage you to browse the course details document, where you will find lots of helpful information. For more useful presentations, come visit us at tltleaders.org. Thank you.